horror to feel fear, but safely. Behind the screen, behind the mask, the monster stays contained. But what if the mask was real? What if the horror wasn't imagined, but inspired by true events, real killers, and the darkest corners of the human psyche? It began in 1957 in Plainfield, Wisconsin. Police entered the home of Ed Gein and uncovered a grotesque tableau. Furniture upholstered with human skin, skulls repurposed as bowls, and a suit crafted from female body parts. Gein's crimes weren't just about murder, they were about transformation. He idolized his dead mother, exhumed corpses to recreate her, and blurred the line between grief and madness. His legacy seeped into cinema, spawning Norman Bates, Leatherface, and Buffalo Bill. But it was Leatherface's mask, stitched from human skin, that became the most iconic symbol. The mask wasn't just a disguise. It was a desperate attempt to wear another identity, to escape his own fractured self. In horror, masks often conceal, but Leatherface's mask reveals. It exposes the horror of a man who has no face of his own, only the ones he steals. Years later, Wes Craven found himself haunted by a different kind of terror. Southeast Asian refugees were dying in their sleep after reporting vivid nightmares. Doctors called it SUNS, sudden unexplained nocturnal death syndrome. Craven imagined a killer who could invade dreams, punishing vulnerability. Thus, Freddy Krueger was born. Freddy's signature weapon, a glove with long, razor-sharp blades for fingers, was more than just a tool of murder. It was a perversion of touch. Hands are meant to comfort, to connect. Freddy's glove turned that intimacy into violence. The blades extended his reach into the subconscious, making even the gentlest gesture lethal. His burned face, too, was symbolic, a scarred remnant of vengeance, a visual echo of trauma that never heals. Stephen King's Annie Wilkes from Misery brought horror into the home. She was nurturing, devoted, and sadistic. Inspired by real-life nurse Janine Jones, who killed infants under her care, Annie embodied the caretaker narcissist. Her most chilling accessory, the sledgehammer. When Annie hobbles her favorite author, she doesn't just break his legs, she asserts control. The sledgehammer is blunt, primitive, and personal. It's not a weapon of efficiency, but of domination. In horror, it symbolizes the violence of obsession, the brutality hidden beneath affection. Annie's cozy sweaters and country home only deepen the dread. They're the camouflage of madness. In Chicago's Cabrini Green housing projects, a man was murdered while neighbors' cries for help went unanswered. From this tragedy, Candyman emerged, a ghost born of neglect and injustice. His hook, replacing a severed hand, became his signature. The hook is raw, industrial, and cruel. It's not a weapon of choice. It's a punishment. Candyman was lynched for love, and the hook is a reminder of that brutality. It's also a symbol of forced silence, a hand removed, a voice suppressed. In horror, the hook pierces not just flesh, but history. It drags the past into the present, demanding to be remembered. Buffalo Bill, the antagonist of The Silence of the Lambs, was a composite of real killers, Bundy, Heidnik, and Gein. His obsession with transformation led him to create a woman's suit from human skin. But one detail stands out: the moth. Bill nurtures moths, especially the death's head hawk moth, which he places in his victims' throats. The moth is a symbol of metamorphosis, of becoming. But in Bill's case, it's a grotesque parody. The moth's beauty contrasts with his violence, and its presence in the mouth, a place of speech, suggests silencing identity. In horror, the moth is the promise of change twisted into a ritual of death. Wes Craven returned to horror with The Hills Have Eyes, inspired by the legend of Sawney Bean, a 16th century Scottish cannibal. Craven reimagined the myth in the American desert, adding nuclear testing and isolation. The villains were mutated, inbred, and savage. But one detail stood out: their goggles. The goggles, worn by the clan's leader, are cracked and opaque. They distort vision, both literally and metaphorically. In horror, they represent the failure to see humanity. The desert sun blinds, but the goggles obscure. They're a barrier between the monster and the world, a lens through which cruelty is normalized. The goggles aren't just protection, they're a worldview. As the stories unfold, a chilling truth emerges. When horror is rooted in reality, it cuts deeper. These villains aren't just scary, they're symbolic. Leatherface's mask, Freddy's glove, Annie's sledgehammer, Candyman's hook, Buffalo Bill's moth, and the Desert Clan's goggles all carry meaning. They reflect fears of abandonment, obsession, injustice, and the fragility of the human mind. Real horror isn't just blood and screams. It's history, psychology, and the symbols we try to forget. And in those symbols, horror enthusiasts find the true artistry of fear. Which villain shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Until next time, happy screams and hilarious dreams.